Hello again from us, and I hope it's been a happy Saturday. My little grandson Joshua turned 4 today, and because he couldn't have a party, his mum recorded the surprise of his friends singing happy birthday to him. Got them all to contribute to a WhatsApp, and they played it at breakfast. So gorgeous to see his reaction on the WhatsApp video. I'm sure some of our wonderful KPC youth have had birthdays in lockdown. How was it for you, if you did? So, here's a question for today. Maybe it's more of a challenge, really. Is there someone who could really do with an encouraging word or a friendly text from you this weekend? Say, I'll pray for you, or don't forget, God understands and loves you for who you are. Or maybe, here's a helpful verse I read in the Bible and thought of you. Some little encouragement for someone. Is there someone you could send that to? So on to our reading, and we're at part 2 of Acts chapter 14. Remember, Acts is basically the story of the early church just as it was getting going, and people were hearing the good news for the first time. And the apostles, Paul and Barnabas, continue their preaching tour, and it's a roller coaster. Loads of people believe in Jesus from their preaching. Then next minute, others are trying to stone them, kill them, chase them out of town, and they have to flee for their lives. And then at the end of yesterday's reading, the first part of chapter 14, they were mobbed by people thinking that they were the Greek gods come to life. How weird is that? So we pick up the story at the point where the crowd are almost hero worshipping our guys, but it doesn't last long.
So then some Jews came from Antioch and Iconium and won the crowd over. They stoned Paul and grabbed him and dragged him outside the city, thinking he was dead. But after the disciples had gathered round him, he got up and went back to the city. The next day, he and Barnabas left for Derbe. And they preached the gospel in that city and won a large number of disciples. Then they returned to Lystra, Iconium, and Antioch, strengthening the disciples and encouraging them to remain true to the faith. We must go through many hardships to enter the kingdom of God, they said. Paul and Barnabas appointed elders for them in each church, and with prayer and fasting committed them to the Lord in whom they had put their trust. After going through Pisidia, they came into Pamphylia, and when they had preached the word in Perga, they went down to Attalia. From Attalia, they sailed back to Antioch, where they had been committed to the grace of God for the work they had now completed. And on arriving there, they gathered the church together and reported all that God had done through them and how he had opened a door of faith to the Gentiles. And they stayed there a long time with the disciples.
Oh, lots of strange names of towns, all beginning with P. I hope you kept up with all of that. Amazingly, also, this took place not that far from where people go these days on holiday in Turkey. Perhaps even you've been there. Lovely sunny beaches. Anyway, so more ups and downs in the story of these guys. Amazingly, did you notice that they go back through the towns where they'd been stoned and had to flee for their lives? Those places with funny names, Lystra, Iconium, and so on. Imagine that reaction after a Sunday night youth service, having to flee for your life because of the opposition stirred up. And we're told that they went back to those little groups of new Christians so that they could, as the words put it, strengthen the new believers there and encourage them to remain true to the faith. Strengthen the believers and encourage them to remain true to the faith. So to our question, is there someone you've perhaps lost touch with since lockdown who could really do with a friendly message? Maybe even remembering someone's birthday. And if you wanted a bit of strengthening for yourself, here's a little surprise that I had just now when looking on our KPC Youth YouTube channel. I came across the Holden family with Julia Markham and Richard singing Our God is a Great Big God, recorded this week. Look it up, it's really good. And that really says it all. Our God is a great big God, and he does indeed hold us in his hands, just as he did those guys long ago. Same God, same hands. Thanks for listening. Don't forget, tomorrow, Sunday, 6:30, evening service. Bye.
Bye-bye.